Okay, so let's go over these problems here on this review sheet. Um, Basically, you're going to have to know how to identify things on the picture and also then how to identify things, pictures and equations and whatnot. So the first part is about knowing about things on the picture. So it's right here, this is the formula of a parabola. So remember that this negative 12 right there, remember in the parabola formula that is for p. So that must mean that p equals negative 3. So my focal length is 3. You can put positive or negative, whichever. I think on the test I've just put positives there. The vertex comes from this x value right here, and then there's nothing with the y, so that would be 0. So it means my vertex is negative 2 and 0. I'm going to mark that on the graph. I would really advise that you have some graph paper for your test on Friday, because it's going to be easier for you to get what's going on. Let's see. This one says y squared, so that means my parabola is going to open up to the right or to the left, and since the 12 is negative, it's going to open up to the left. So you can also go to Desmos and type in the equation right here and basically figure out what it looks like, but Desmos is not going to tell you the little parts of it, but it'll show you the picture. Alright, so the focal length is 3. That means that from the vertex I go 3 units inside the parabola. So 1, 2, 3. So there's my focus at negative 5, 0. The axis of symmetry is going to run right down dead center, and that is the equation y equals 0. The directrix will be, if the focus was 3 units inside the parabola, the directrix is 3 units outside. So it's going to be right here. So it's a line, and that equation of that line is x equals 1. Okay? All right, but remember on this graph right here, this is your focal length right here, your focal length right there. It spaces out the focus from the vertex and the directrix from the vertex. All right, on here, you can tell I'm asking you about the radius and the diameter, so this must be a circle. But also, basically, a circle is kind of similar to an ellipse that doesn't go, it goes the same value in every direction. So another way you could look at this, if you really wanted to, you could divide everything by 16 and get x minus 2 squared over 16 plus y plus 1 squared over 16 equals 1. Now you don't need to do that, but look, that's just an ellipse that's going 4 units in every direction. So again, you don't need to do that, but if it has a circle, then that's one thing to think of. So the center of the circle is at 2, negative 1. So 2, negative 1, and the radius, this number right here is r squared, so r squared equals 16. That must mean that the radius is 4. Now if that was a weird number like 15, I would just say the radius is the square root of 15. Alright, but here it's 4, so that means the diameter is 8, double that, right? So I'm going to go 4 up, 4 down, 4 to the right, and 4 to the left. And there is my circle. Pretty ugly circle, but you get the idea. So, the radius is this length, the diameter would be the whole thing. That's just basic facts about a circle. Alright, so moving on. Number 3. I can tell this is an ellipse or a hyperbola, but because there's a plus in the middle, we can tell that it's an ellipse. Right? So when I look at this, my center is negative 3 and 1 based on this information here. So let's do that. Negative 3, 1. I'm going to go 3 units, because it's 3 squared, 3 units in the x direction. So 3 units this way, 3 units that way. I'm going to go 5 units, because that's 5 squared. So I'm going to go 5 units in the y direction and 5 units in the y direction down. Alright, so there's my ellipse. So it's longer, going up and down. This is the major axis right here. So the major axis is at x equals negative 3. The minor axis goes side to side. That would be y equals 1. Okay, the shorter one. Alright, and then you have your vertices. So these dots that I marked over here are my vertices. So this one over here is at 0, 1. And up top at negative 3, 6. See what I mean about the graph paper? It just really helps with identifying points. I get negative 6, 1. And then we got negative 3, negative 4. So whether you have some graph paper or you could just like look up graph paper on Google and print some out if you can. But really, graph paper would be beneficial. All right, my focal length. So remember for the c value, it goes like this. C squared equals a squared minus b squared. So it doesn't matter which a and b are, but it's just the larger minus the smaller. So c squared, the larger number is 25, so it's 25 minus the smaller number is 9, so 9. That means c squared equals 16, so that means my c value is 4. So my foci come off of the center. That means I go on the major axis right here. So I go 4 up, 4 down, and there's the foci. So the foci are at negative 3, 5, and also negative 3, negative 3. Now you also have available to you on Schoology, you have cheat sheet there that I've given you, right? So if you want to getting any of this information or look at that, that might be helpful to like have that open. So there's the cheat sheet here, and you know it has everything by formula. So that's a little bit sometimes it's a little bit like different to look at. But all these things here tell you basically everything you need to know about each problem, but using formulas. All right, so next one. Finally, a hyperbola. I can tell it's a hyperbola because it has a minus in the middle and it has a 1 right here. All right. So the center, my x is 0, my y is negative 3, so I'm going to mark that on here. My x direction, I go 3 each way, so 3 to the right, 3 to the left. My y, I go 4 because of the 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember we would draw a little box around here, so it's not really there. We're just drawing it to help us like with the asymptotes and whatnot. So you can dot it or solid, whatever you like. But anyway, this thing is has x in front. So that means that my hyperbola is going to be crossing or opening to the right and to the left, because it eventually needs to cross the x-axis. That's how I like to remember it. All right, so my vertices are, so my vertices are right here and right here. So that would be 3, negative 3. And the other one is negative 3, negative 3. All right, the focal length with hyperbolas, it's very simple. You get c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So this time it really doesn't matter which is a and b. You can add them together. So c squared equals 9 plus 16. 9 and 16 are already squared. 9 is 3 squared, 16 is 4 squared. So I get c squared equals 25. So c must be 5. Right? So that means that my foci are going to be 5 units from the center towards the parabolas on each side. So 5 units puts me here, and 5 units the other way puts me here. Okay, let me see if I can move this parabola over a little bit. There we go. Okay, so there's my foci. So I have 5, negative 3, and the other one would be negative 5, negative 3. All right, my asymptotes, my transverse axis. Remember the transverse axis is the thing that cuts through your parabolas right in the center. So the equation of that line is y equals negative 3. If your parabolas go the other way, it's going to be x equals. It's going to be a vertical line. Your asymptotes. So the asymptotes go from the center out to the corner, and also center to the corner this way. Remember that we're going to try to write this formula, or this equation of a line. Y minus y1 equals m, and then x minus x1. So the coordinate that I'm going to use is the center, 0, negative 3. So this number will be 0, this one will be negative 3. And then the slope, I just have to go to my graph and count. Well, my slope is my rise over my run. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It has to do with these numbers right here, right? So 4/3 And remember, it goes plus or minus. So my asymptotes are going to be y plus 3 equals plus or minus 4/3. And I would put parentheses x minus 0 here, but we don't have to put minus 0, so we'll just put x. All right, so now here we're going to do our completing the square to put this in standard form. So I'm going to gather my x's together. So I got x squared plus 8x, leave a little space, I guess, plus y squared plus 10y. Let's put the 40 out of there, so negative 40 over there. All right, so let's do some grouping here. All right, so I take half of 8. 8 is 4 squared, I get 16. There's nothing in front, so I'm going to add 16 over here as well. All right, and then the y's, I take half of 10 is 5. 5 squared is 25. So 25 there. There's nothing in front to change that, so plus 25. All right, so let's just clean this up. This is x plus 4 squared, because I squared 4 to get 16. And then over here, y plus 5 squared, because I squared 5 to get 25, and then it's plus because 10y is positive, and also 8x is positive, that's why it's positive here. So equals, on the other side, we end up getting, let's see, we get a 1. All right. So just turns out that you can think of this two ways. You can think of this as, it kind of looks like an ellipse equation, but there's no fractions to it. So that means that you go the same distance, right, left, up, and down, or really, this is also just makes this a circle with a center of negative 4, negative 5. And then the radius is 1, because the square root of 1 right there is just 1. So if you had to draw it, it'd be about there, and it'd be a little tiny circle. All right, so we're going to analyze these pictures or this information that I'm given here, and we're going to write the equation of the object. So this is a parabola. It's facing down. So it's up and down means I have x being squared and y not squared. So I got x being squared, and the y is over here on the right side. So let's figure out a couple things. First of all, the center. The center is negative 3, 1. Sorry, the vertex. So that means this is going to be, the vertex is negative 3, 1. That means I'm going to have x plus 3. Over here in parentheses, I'm going to have y minus 1. The only other thing I need right here is 4p. So my focal length right here I can tell is 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. This thing is upside down, so this is going to have to be a negative 8 right there. And that's it. And you could also confirm this by typing this into Desmos and seeing if you get the picture that's over there. All right, this next one. So obviously this is a circle. So you just have to pick apart and find the centers right there. So my center is 5, negative 2. So I'm going to have x minus 5 squared plus y plus 2, since it's negative 2. And then I just need my radius. Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. My radius is 4, so 4 squared is 16. That's it. All right, here we have an ellipse. So I know I'm going to have a plus with some fractions here. Squared, fractions squared equals 1 all the time. All right, so let's look at the center. Oh, so my center looks like 0, 0. So that makes it a little bit easier. That means that I don't really need to have these parentheses here, because I'm going to have like x minus 0 and y minus 0. So I think what I'll just do is write it down here. I'm going to have x squared and have y squared, because the center is 0, 0. My x is going out 1, 2, 3 spaces, so 3 squared is 9. My y, I gave you this coordinate down here, goes square root of 23. So that means I'm going to square 23 to get that, right? So this would just be 23. So the square root of 23 squared. Okay? Just a little bit strange or different. On your test I didn't make it anything weird like that, but that would be that. That's the answer. If you go to Desmos and graph this, you'll get this picture. All right, number 9, we have a hyperbola. So I have my center is at negative 4, 1. It is crossing the y-axis eventually. So that means the y part's going to be in front. So I'm going to have y squared over some number. I'm going to have x squared, and I just made a mistake. I put a plus. This should be a minus because it's a hyperbola. And then equals 1 all the time. All right. So my x will have a plus 4 because my center was negative 4, and my y will have a minus 1 right there. Okay, so now we just look at this box that I gave you. In the x direction, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the x part's going to have a 25 underneath it, 5 squared. And the y part's just going to have a 1 squared. So 1 squared is 1. So frankly, you could just write this problem like this. Y minus 1 squared minus x plus 4 squared over 25 equals 1. You don't have to have this 1 underneath here. But either way is fine. Just be able to recognize both. Alright, so here I gave you some information. There's an ellipse with these vertices. So let's draw it up. 4, 2. Got negative 6, 2. Okay, and then 2, 2. Oh, I've made a mistake. How could... Hang on a second. Alright. 4, 2, negative 6, 2, 2, 2, and negative 4, 2. That doesn't make any sense. Alright, let me check out this answer key. What did I do? Yes, what was I thinking? Alright. So, 4, 2, negative 6, 2 are fine. But what I wanted these to say over here, oh, foci. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I was thinking those were the, no, I'm sorry. I was just reading it right. Everything is fine. So that means that the center, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the center right here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay. So my center, I thought they were all 4 vertices, and I was confusing me. Center is negative 1, 2. So that means I can at least do this: x plus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared. It always equals 1. So at least right now I know that in the x direction it goes 5 units each way. So the x is going to have a 25 underneath it. But the reason you were given the foci is because you can get the other thing underneath the y, the other value underneath the y here. So let me see that. 2, 2 and negative 4, 2. So there we go. Okay. So that means that the focal length was 3, right? I went 3 each way. So my c value is equal to 3. Okay. And when we figure out c squared equals a squared minus b squared. It's the larger number minus the smaller number. Okay. Now, since this is on the major axis, the foci are on the major axis. So the major axis is the actual larger number. So that means that the larger number is going to be 25. I don't know the smaller number. And then I know that the focal length is 3, so this must be 9, right? Okay. So that's a little bit of figuring out here. So if I go ahead and work this out, I move the b squared over here, and I got 25 minus 9, so b squared is 16. So I'm going to put a 16 there, but b is 4 if you need to know that. So basically we've just figured out that this is a 16 right here. So it means the rest of the ellipse, 1, 2, 3, 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4 there. So there's my ellipse. So bad drawing, but that's my ellipse. Okay? So again, the foci lie on the major axis. So since the foci were along those 2 vertices right there, That means my x has my major axis. That means this number right here should be bigger than this number right here. So that's how we were able to tell. Alrighty, and that is it. Bye.